Hey YouTube, this is a wee sort of lesson introduction for anyone who has just bought a bass, doesn't really play it but like the idea of it. So this is just from totally knowing absolutely nothing. So I might be stating very obvious things. Just to kind of reminded me of, like, remember my pal had bought a learn to play bass book, and it showed you how to sit with it. You could either sit with it like this or yeah. So this is my Squire Mikey Way bass. So, going for totally obvious, this bit's the neck. Right, these are the machine heads, or tuners, people call them. So you use them to tighten up and slacken off the strings. These are the strings. This is the pickup. Generally, on a bass, normally, you get ones with more pickups. Like this one's got two and things. They do different things, but generally you get a volume and a tone control. The volume makes it louder, and the tone, when you've got it up full, it's a sort of brighter tone. Then you turn it down and it gets bassier. In general, and you stick the lead in there and you plug it into an amp. Ideally you'd be plugging into a bass amp. You can get away with it plugging into a guitar amp. You might damage a guitar amp if you're playing up at full bung sort of thing, but if you're playing it in the house, sort of thing, at the sort of volume we're at just now, you're not going to damage anything. It's only when you start, if you try and play along with a drum kit with a guitar amp and you've got everything turned up full bung, you might blow the speakers, but you're not going to do that on playing at a reasonable level. Yeah, so where we got to now, this will be the body, this is the bridge, the bit where the strings come on. On this particular one, the strings go in, you put the strings in through the back, they come up over these things, which are called saddles, and then they go up here onto tuners. This wee bit here, the white plastic bit on this bass, is called the nut, and that basically just holds the strings in place, and it holds them at a set height off the fingerboard, which is, and on this particular bass it's made of rosewood, so it's the dark bit is your fingerboard or fretboard, and the metal things are called frets. That's like if you look at a double bass, it doesn't have frets, so you have to be really accurate with where you play the note, because it kind of goes boo as you slide up, whereas this one goes, whereas if it didn't have frets, it would go boo between them. Yeah, and so this the original reason Leo Fender called his first bass the precision bass was because you could play precision notes. It means you don't need to be anything like as accurate, because as long as you're playing somewhere between the two frets, you get a note, whereas on a fretless bass, precise, hence precision bass. Yeah, some of them have got dots on them. The only function of these is just so you know where you are, really. It's also got dots on the edge of the fretboard, which you may not see in this video, that just coincide with them. So for me, I don't need the dots on the front, because the way I'm playing, I can't see that anyway, but I do use the ones on the edge. So you've got them on, the dots are on the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th and 12th fret. Yeah, so that's kind of the basics of what the actual instrument is. Basically you hit the strings with your fingers. Actually, one of my pals, Ivor, his things would play with both fingers and a pick, so you can use a pick if you like, which gives you a more ringing, a more aggressive sound, or you can play with your fingers, so it's a bit more muffled. Neither is right, neither is wrong, depends, whatever you fancy. I find I always played with a pick up until about a couple of years ago, and then I started using. I find that you get a bit more control when you're using your fingers. Also with your fingers, you can use, if you're flea, you can kind of use all four. But using one's fine to start with, or maybe two, or maybe three. I can kind of use three. Right, so, and you hold the strings down. You don't need to hold them down hard, you just hold them down until they sound right. Yep, so other advice I was given was for what to tell people: play what you like, play something that sounds, whatever sounds good. I was in the studio with a bass player last night, and his view was like, yeah, basically there's only 12 notes, so I thought that was quite an important thing to know. So they're really all, you've got like a 1 in 12 chance of hitting the right note first time. The strings are tuned E, A, D, G, And to tune them, you tighten it up or lower it down. If you've got a tuner, I've recommended you can get like a good app for your phone these days. You get these wee clip-on things, which don't work brilliantly for basses, but they do work. So what you do is you just clip that onto the headstock, and I'll show you kind of how it works. So if you look at it there it's coming up with a G, right? Which is because I'm playing the thin string here. Right, so if I tune that down, you can see it's going down to F sharp. You slide it up. You see the wee needle at the top, sliding up to G, and then what you want is that wee needle to be dead centre. And there, and see, well, this particular tuner flashes green when you're right. As long as it's sort of right there on like a digital tuner, you're there. You know, it doesn't need to be absolutely dead on. You can spend forever. I mean, this thing's not accurate enough. It's kind of showing you sort of flashing between just slightly low and on. They're not that accurate. Or these wee cheapy things. These things are only about £2 from China. But it's a similar sort of thing you'll get if you use your phone. Back in the day, I used to tune to Dark Side of the Moon. At the start, it goes for time. I used to just tune to the record, which didn't actually work because my record player played slightly fast. So because it was playing slightly fast, the pitch was a wee bit higher, so I was always slightly sharp. But there you go. And okay, you do sometimes get, you know, records do tune down or tune up or something like that, but most of the time an A is an A. It's an industry standard center A of a piano. It's 440 hertz. You want to be technical about it. Yeah. What else was I told? So play with you can play with a pick or play with your fingers. It doesn't really matter. I was also saying you don't have to play a lot or very fast. Sometimes less is more on a bass. Sometimes you get the most power from just it's all it needs to be. It doesn't matter if you're John Entwistle or not. Sometimes he just plays one note and lets it ring and it sounds great. I think there's a wee bit of an element of being able to knowing how long to let it ring. So you can either let it ring and then stop it with your finger or your pick, or you can let it ring and then lift it off slightly with your left hand, and that'll also make it stop. So, you know, sometimes it's good to be, and sometimes it's good to be. It just depends what you fancy. These are kind of like techniques. I'm not actually going to show you how to play anything in particular. It's good to know. Basically, so your strings are E, A, D, G. So the way I play, I basically base everything off the E and A string. So an E open, and then an E on the 12th fret, which is one with 2 dots on it, is the same note. So that's a higher E than that. You'll recognise that from Pink Floyd, do that a lot. So it just goes E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. There is no A sharp for some reason. Yes, there is. There's an A sharp, then there's a B, and then there's no B sharp. It goes straight to C because of maths. So there's no B sharp, right? So C, C sharp, D, D sharp, back to E again. And the same goes for the A string. So you get A, B, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F. Yeah. So basically, there's no B sharp and there's no E sharp. There's only the two of them that are different. That's why if you look at a piano, you get like you get your white keys and then you get your black keys, but the black keys aren't all there. It's like sort of a group of 3, and then there's a gap, and then there's a group of 2, and then there's a gap. So that's why that's there. Just something to do with maths and frequencies and stuff. Whoever it was invented that. It might have been Bach actually. It was very good. But you don't have like sharps as the black keys like on a bass or a guitar. You've just got all the notes are just in a row, and then they just keep repeating. So the ones that I find incredibly useful are E open and the E here are always good. F or G. Remember where G is. Remember there's an A there, but there's also an A there. That's the A string open, which are pretty much the same. You can also use that to tune, because they should both be the same. So if your E string's in tune, your A string's out, you can tune that so it's the same. C is pretty much so the 3rd fret there, D, E. So if you remember C, D, E, G, and A, you can play tons of stuff. I would also, obviously you don't need to play a lot of notes, but sometimes it's nice. Generally, you can very often play a very simple version of something. Or you can, so that's actually quite a complicated one because I'm going da da da. So you just go. You notice I'm using different fingers all the time. The only real reason for that is if you use the same finger all the time, you get tired. But you don't need to be able to play it. It is nice because quite a lot of the time you're coming up 2 frets. So if you're playing that note, quite a lot of the time the next note is this one. So you can just do it with one, but it's much handier if you can use this finger or this finger together to do that. So you're kind of ready for the next note. Even when I'm playing that one and I've got no intention of going up here, I've always got these fingers are sort of hanging about where they might be used should I decide to use it. And you can even use the 4th finger, but there's no right or wrong way. That's a more technique thing. Just sit and play. Find something simple that you like. Good thing as well is that so I'm playing a G there. If you come up 2 frets, and then up 2 strings, and play this note, that's an octave, so that's a G as well. It's a wee bit of a stretch to do that when you're starting. But that's the same principle if you're playing. So if you're playing the G string, so that'd be that note's same as that note, and that's the next one up. So these are all G's. But that's always a good one to have. So whatever note you're playing, if you're basing it on the E and A string, you've got. That's maybe getting a bit more advanced, and then what you do is you just join those up together with whatever feels right. There's not really I'll show you a classic wrong note. It's Black Sabbath. So you've got your G, and then you've got your higher up G, and then you've got this one in the middle, which is the wrong note. It's called a tritone, and it was banned in 16th century music for years because it sounds evil. Yeah, so but you can run through them. So although it sounds like I'm playing a lot of notes, I'm really just playing G and then putting fancy bits in the middle. And everyone has their own wee fancy bits they like to use. Obviously, good players have lots of different runs. I've got a couple I kind of tend to do the same thing all the time. So if I'm playing on G, I'll be sitting there. That note there as well when you're playing in a G or the equivalent. So if you come up 2 frets and up 1 string, that's kind of one of the ones that's sort of in the middle between the two when you're doing a run. And you can see there I'm doing lots of cheaty things which I'm not really thinking about. Sometimes I'm holding down 2 strings with 1 finger, or you can do it with that one. So you don't have to go. You can do that. But these are just like sort of cheats to make it feel easier to play. Yeah, I really don't want to do very much more than that. So you can play really basic bass, which sometimes is what's required. If you listen to AC/DC or something like that, there's a lot of it's kind of rhythm driven. So the important bit is you're playing in. Well, it's not the typical pitch, obviously playing time, but sometimes it's all it is. In Highway to Hell, for example, there's a bit where it sits on A for ages, while the guitar's going da 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 da. All I'm doing is just keeping it very simple, hitting the A, and then the big break comes when it goes to the chorus, and then it goes E, so it goes. and that's my favourite thing to play ever. On the bass playing like that, it's just brilliant. It's actually quite hard to keep that, you know, try to keep that rhythm going. It's actually quite a hard thing to do. Also, I was saying playing the Black Sabbath thing. That's actually one of the hardest songs for me to play, or for me and the guitarist to play it in the Black Sabbath band, because if you miss it, so you get dung, dung, dung. That's bong, bong. But if you miss the note, or don't quite hit it right, or hit the wrong note, you don't have any time, because you're letting it ring for so long. So if you're accidentally hit, you're like, oh, so you've got to kind of wait just with a big gap where there's nothing happening, and you just played the wrong note until you recover. Whereas if you're playing sort of faster stuff, you know, and you play the wrong note, because there's so many notes in there, you can just slide it and move it to be the right note, and it doesn't sound like you sound like you meant it, sort of thing. So if you're sitting playing on the spots, I mean, in the band, well, this kind of for Pat, most of our songs are in A anyway, or they're on the sort of dotty frets. So if you're playing a sort of, this one's starting in D, for example, you're playing D, the chances are you're going to have the ones with the dots on them are going to sound good. And it's the same, because we're playing in the dots here, if you're actually starting there, then you would just play the one below the dots. But I'm playing too hard. You just, and that's sometimes a good trick as well. Instead of just playing your, you can sort of play, and then wee bits, but basically just sit, enjoy it. Basses are great fun. There's an awful lot of people I know that have got several guitars and they're quite good in the guitar and they don't actually own a bass, but the bass can be so liberating because it's so much fun to play, and you can play so little and sometimes it's so effective. It doesn't really, the guitar's not really quite the same as that. You know, there's not really any amazing guitar parts that are really much fun to play that are just one note, whereas on the bass there are plenty. See, what I'm doing there is I'm playing the note, and then before I go to the next one I'm playing the first note again. So instead of going, I'm going, and you can also put notes kind of in the middle. Sometimes the one between them sounds good. Sometimes it doesn't sound good. It depends. There's technical theories about why it sounds good, why it doesn't sound good. But sometimes it's nice to go like with, because the notes in the middle are kind of just there for adding flavour to it. They're not actually in it, if you know what I mean. And you just try and play that as fast as you can. I hope this was some use to anyone who's thinking of maybe buying a bass. Basses are so much fun. I prefer Fender style basses. This is actually a short scale, so this is like maybe be better for kids or for learning. But I mean, and people say it's better for a guitarist because it's not as different as a full scale bass. I've got, might be able to pick this up without knocking anything else over. Yeah, so a full scale bass would be this size. So you look at it, you can see it's 4 inches longer. But all the principles are just the same. They're just it's a little bit more cumbersome, and you could argue that it sounds a little bit different, but not hugely so. You would notice playing it, but you wouldn't notice listening to it whether someone was using a long or a short scale bass. Short scale basses are cool. I like them. You can, with a short scale bass, I mean, this is an advanced technique, but you can bend strings easier. But bending strings on a bass generally isn't the best thing to be doing. It's sometimes nice to have it on a wee, like for playing the Black Sabbath one, you can kind of go, and that's me just holding down the string and then doing that with my hand to make it go wong. It's called vibrato. But that's, you can only really use that occasionally. If you do it on every note, it starts to sound all wonky. But sometimes it's nice when it's just like a wee. And just learn some songs you know. My advice would be, don't like try and play Rush or something that's incredibly complicated to start with. Led Zeppelin are quite bad for that as well, and so are the Beatles actually. When I say bad, I mean they've got really competent bass players that basically don't play very often. They still do occasionally play one or two notes they're easy to play, but I mean a lot of Led Zeppelin and Rush and stuff like that, it's very complicated. Whereas if you're looking at something like, like rock and roll or I mean not rock and roll, the Led Zeppelin song, that's pretty easy anyway, but like sort of blues and stuff like that, it's pretty, you get away with doing not very much. I mean blues is good fun playing along the bass, and if you just stick on the record and try and play along, and you've got a 1 in 12 chance of finding the right note first time. And it doesn't matter which string you're really playing it on. I mean these ones are higher up, but it's still the same notes. So generally in a bass you're playing mostly on the fat 2 strings. That's where the fun is. So enjoy playing the bass. It's amazing fun. And if you're a guitarist, buy a bass anyway. You pick up. I mean, okay, this is quite because this is a Mikey Way one. It's got a super sparkly finish on it and a competition racing stripe. It's a bit more expensive. I mean, you can pick up like a Squire P bass for 150 quid new. So if you get a second hand one, it's like just having it. Even if you're not talking about doing recording, if you're playing the guitar, then you've never played the bass before, if you play the bass, I guarantee you after a couple of weeks, and if you play it a wee bit, you will learn stuff on the bass that you will be able to apply to the guitar. I mean, I've always played guitar and bass pretty much. I played the guitar for maybe a year, and then I joined a band which already had 3 guitarists, so I would have been the 4th guitarist. So I borrowed a bass and then played it for an hour, and then went into the studio and I was playing bass, because its power chords are sort of the same. So if you can play the bass on the other side and you want to have a shot on a guitar, the notes are all the same. It's just the guitar's got more, and you can hit them to get a chord. You play several notes at the same time. On a bass you can, but they don't really, because of the frequencies, they don't really work the same way. You can really only play a bass chord in a very specific place. So. You got to it's got to be a specific place. You can't just play. Well, you sort of can, but nobody does. It's not really worth it. And it's great fun just being able to. I mean, I'm just sliding up and down, just playing the same things I've been playing for years. I didn't learn it. The more you play, the more you start going, oh, it's quite nice when you've got this one. And then there's normally a nice note there as well. And whatever you're playing, going down to or going up to, or going down 2 or going up 3 normally sounds good. And if you like something like Black Sabbath, it's probably not the best for learning sort of the fundamentals of bass, but it's good fun playing the riffs, because all the Black Sabbath riffs, the bass kind of normally doubles up the riffs, so you get your these are fun things to play, and if you like doing that, just play them, and to get good at them though, just to make sure that you're letting the note ring, you're getting your finger between the 2 frets. Ideally you're talking about it being sort of, maybe not in the middle, slightly up the way, sort of 2/3 of the way up to the fret, but it doesn't really matter where you are, it depends how far you've got to try and reach. As long as you'll be able to hear it. So if you're hitting it, if you're holding it on the actual metal bit, you get sort of buzzy, so you don't want that. You want to be in the middle, and if you're holding it too low, you want, as long as you've got it in the middle, and then it's getting a nice consistent way of hitting it as well, or if you're using a pick, you're trying to get it so it's the same sort of level all the time, rather than, there's obviously places for that, for thumping it, but you get sort of buzzy as opposed to being, you know, sort of. But it's nice to try and keep it a sort of consistent. It's better. But sometimes it's good to have one note intentionally louder than all the others. Yeah, so I've talked for 26 minutes. I don't know if that's any use to bass players, but it's good. Basses are awesome. And I do have a tendency to just go diddly diddly diddly, but I do that on the guitar as well. It's not. I kind of do it automatically, just get like showing off. But that's like, like part of the reason you've got a guitar, you play guitar, play the bass is to show off, isn't it? That's the point. You know what I mean? You've got to be standing in front of the mirror, and I always play standing up as well, even when I'm not doing a video. Although you can play sitting down, I just feel like, you know, there's something a bit more rock playing standing up. Rock on!